Hello to everyone who's listening to this. I am Giane and I am a BS Development Communication student from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. And this is my first ever podcast, as well as my week 5 entry of our weekly writes in blog 6050. It is a blog of development communication freshmen as a requirement for a subject. So if you're actually also interested to look at the other content of my batchmates, then I'd gladly leave the link down below. So check it out if you have some time. So today I'm going to talk about remote learning, my experience, what I feel about it, and some tips on how we can cope up with this new normal, this online setting of classes that I have actually also, got from the things I learned during this experience. So here's to hoping that it actually find my talking voice comforting as you do whatever you have to do while listening to me to this podcast. So yeah, moving on. This new normal has been a trying time for all of us. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been feeling this way. And specifically for me as a student, this remote learning setup as a person who's not tech savvy and not really into being online all the time, even though I may spend most of my time scrolling through my phone, watching YouTube videos, and reading mangas. Um, it's been taking quite a toll on me, and to be honest, it's been draining me. Um, because really it's a very draining experience, especially if you need to spend most of your time in front of your laptop or your gadgets, whatever gadget you're using for this online classes. Um, it just, I don't know for you, but for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, it has been an exhausting experience so far. And one of the greatest challenge, actually frustrations that I have about this online learning is that it has made me more anxious than before. I wasn't this anxious when I was in high school when we were doing classes face to face, but um I thought that before, maybe online learning isn't going to be that demanding, and um because it's going to be quite limited, compared to the face to face classes. But on the contrary, it has actually made me more anxious than ever because it made me feel like 24/7 I need to check on my emails. And, because there's this paranoia looming over me that I may be missing something if I'm not online for just a minute. So it's just, it's just me. And it makes me feel like 24/7 I need to be working on something even though it's not class hours anymore. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's my online learning experience. And I mean, it's not at all that bad compared to when you're in face-to-face classes. The control over time is up to us students, everything is left up to us. But the only downside to it is that everything, including, um, studying. And I'm sure it's quite a challenge for other students out there, especially those, whose learning styles are not fit for, studying by themselves. And for me, it's actually like that for me for some subjects. So, yeah, that's why it has been a really trying time. And more than that, being in an environment that is not suitable for learning or studying is really contributing to the difficulty of this time. But of course, I I'd actually also acknowledge all my shortcomings when it comes to this because, of course, since we have this new normal, it is expected that we also adjust to this new normal. We should leave behind those habits and things, our work habits that we have been doing during face to face because this is another matter. This online learning, you know, online setup, online learning setup. This is just really another matter. So, of course, it's going to be more difficult and it's going to be more um, challenging for us if we don't do it properly and, if we don't really put our minds on doing this properly, everything like studying and getting used to being online. So I would like to share some tips that I have. Actually, it's more of, these are more of the lessons I have learned, from being messy when this all started in the first place. So because of course, we didn't expect this. It was like, I don't know, a hurricane that just, came out of nowhere. A hurricane that came out of nowhere into our lives. And for a person who's used to the school facilitating everything and I just study after class hours for a while because I've been doing it everything inside the classroom. It it was really a time of um adjustment. So here are some tips in adjusting that I actually find, even though, okay, to be honest, I'm still learning to do it properly, everything that I have put in this list of tips. But, it's good to have this um, backbone for you to follow whenever you feel lost or whenever you feel like everything's taking a toll on you. So, yeah, so for my first tip is to find the best study place for you inside the four corners of your home. So for me, my setup is actually there's nothing special to it really. I just have my table and my laptop and a pen and a notebook. I only use occasionally. Actually, I only use it for my economics class. When I review, that's the only time I use my notebook because most of the time all my notes are in the laptop, so that it just lessens my time, jotting down notes looking to instead of switching from a notebook and then to the laptop because everything is online, right? So the laptop is a really important gadget for all of us today. So yeah, everything is in my laptop, and because of that also it makes it easier for me to move from one room to another. And that is actually my setup during this remote learning because I'm the type of person who's used to going from room to room during high school. So I'm not cooped up in the same place for more than an hour or two. And whenever I had a chance, I actually, go to cafes and the likes to study because I can't really focus enough when I'm at home, especially when the bed is near me. So for this setup, I move from room to room. I move from my desk to the living room and to this little room that we have in our house that we call the library, but it's nothing much really, but just a table and another, just another environment in which I can focus on. So just find the best place for you in which where you can focus doing your requirements, and more than that, find some place where you can study comfortably, even when it means that you need to move from room to room, like me. So it's like in a day, half of the day I spend my online classes in a room, and half of the day I spend it outside the room in the living room where the seats are comfier. Just it depends on your personal preference, to be honest. But yeah, that's one tip. Find the best study place for you. Yeah, and then the second tip is to get organized. And by getting organized, I mean, for me, what I can suggest is putting all your requirements, all the things that you need to do into one organized list. That's what I do. And personally, I use this application called Notion, and it's a really handy application, although I haven't um, explored it too much yet. I just know how to, make lists and type notes in it. But I'm sure if you're um, much more tech savvy person than I am, then I'm sure you can actually utilize that application. So just organizing your list of requirements, even though maybe you're not used to organizing this, but um this is really important, especially that, in this online setup, it unlike the face-to-face classes, you can confirm all your requirements in one day because you meet with the teachers personally. Um, in online classes, everything is being sent through emails. So this is one thing that's, really making me anxious all the time because it's like I feel like I might be missing one thing, right? So because when you're online, you can actually miss things accidentally, and then, you know it just scares me that sometimes, I won't know that, oh, my requirement pala na ganito tapos hindi ko napasa. So I don't want it to happen to you guys. So I think the best option is to really get organized and put those requirements in one list, where you can access it anytime and browse it anytime you want. So whether it may be an application in your laptop or your phone or your notes, just put it somewhere you can um, monitor if you have done it. And the schedule, of course, place it somewhere you can see it always, because in this setup it's really hard, to make sense of the time because it feels like every day is just the same day. And so we need to be reminded that we actually have schedules even though we're in our homes. So yeah, as for my schedule, I set it up as my desktop wallpaper. And my schedule is I don't have classes on Mondays and Saturdays, and Sundays, of course, and weekends. So my schedule isn't that packed except when, there are a lot of requirements that we need to do. So I'd say that even though I only have, you know, four subjects on a Tuesday, and then three on a Wednesday, and then four again on a Thursday, and three again on a Friday. There are really those subjects that demand a lot from you, right? So it's really important that we get organized and, set time for the things that we need to do in a day. So yeah, because time is really important in this setup, or for any setup for that matter. So yeah, the second to the last tip that I have is to avoid distractions. So everyone, if you are an online student if you're an online student like me, then of course you'll know how difficult it is to study inside our houses, you know, in contrast to our schools, where in it's actually really an environment where you can learn. So in our houses, there are a lot of distractions. The bed, and maybe if you have unlimited access to Wi-Fi, then that equates to unlimited access to social media sites. So this is the best, actually, even though I have a hard time following this. This is the best tip that I can, I got for myself and I can give to you, because this really distractions um, consume our time. The time that is actually supposed to be used for studying and making our requirements. So if you're like me, who is easily distracted by Instagram, Twitter, and all those stuff, maybe for not not for forever, but for me, I've actually just uninstalled those applications, some applications that actually get my time. So if you're easily distracted about things, then it's best that we get rid of those distractions first. So, if you're the type of person who easily gets distracted by your bed, then the best place for you to study is outside of your room, of course. So you get the picture. It just really depends on the person. If your distractions aren't like mine, then get rid of your those things that distract you. So it's the same as finding the best study place for you and getting organized, because I understand that all of us are unique. We all have differences. So it may be different from all of us. So yeah. And lastly, another important tip is to take care of ourselves. And I cannot stress this enough because especially when this setup is really draining, actually more draining and more demanding than when we are in face-to-face classes, it's really important to take care of ourselves. So take a nap if you must. Exercise, of course, because you know, unlike maybe if today I'm in the campus, in the UPLB campus, then I may be, walking around when I have the time. But now that I can't even go out, you know, maybe just do some jumping jacks and stretching, just or dance if you want, just to make your body move, because it helps our brain as much as it helps our well-being. Exercising, moving, just have those me times. Pamper yourself. Not just don't take it. Just just don't take it really like just pamper yourself every day. Of course, this is part of getting organized in your schedule. So take time to set up a schedule that's solely for you resting. Listen to music or just eat, watch a movie or two. But I personally, I suggest that when you rest, don't consider binge watching or scrolling through your social media as resting, because aside from simulating your brain through your requirements, if you actually consider those things as your rest time, then it's going to be more draining for you. And I learned this the hard way. So after maybe after making a requirement, then take a nap for maybe 15 or 30 minutes, and then watch one episode of the favorite drama you're watching, or just anything, or play games, and then maybe rest your eyes for 10 minutes and then go back to your requirements. So it's really important to have, regular breaks in between, and breaks that don't consist of, of course, exposing yourself again to gadgets. Yeah, so take care of yourself. I know that this is a trying time for all of us. Teachers aren't even excluded. So it's also important that we keep in mind that it's not only us who's going through this period. So just spread love, spread love to others, and give love to yourselves, to ourselves, and getting organized and all those stuff that I have mentioned earlier is loving ourselves, taking care of ourselves. And I just wanted to add that you are not alone in this journey. So keep your chin up and move forward. And progress is not always linear. Yeah, and shout out to my super classmates, Zion, Kia, and Christine, and also my high school classmates. You know who you are. I love you guys. So they are people who really helped me go through these times. So yeah, actually another tip is to make time for your friends. and family. So, thank you for listening, and maybe see you in my next podcast. Thank you very much for staying tuned until the end. This is Sincerely by Giane.